bounty hunters. We don't need that scum.
I'll take on any job for the right price.
You are free to use any methods necessary, but I want them alive. No disintegrations.
As you wish.
He's all yours, bounty hunter.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Welcome in to the Carbonite Chronicles, presented by the Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. This show is dedicated to reviewing and discussing the Disney Plus mega hit, The Mandalorian. My name's Matt.
I'm Jared.
I'm Mike.
And we have a very special guest, a friend of the program with us tonight.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Not you. You're definitely
you.
no friend of this program.
No. Brian. Brian has been on our program before talking about Star Wars, and we're happy to have him reviewing and discussing Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Brian, how you doing, bud?
Good. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, boy. I tell you what.
You may remember Brian as The Collector.
The Collector.
From a previous show.
Our highest rated YouTube video to date, which I recommend everybody go to YouTube and watch it. It's pretty impressive.
It's because I've watched it 7 times.
Oh.
You're like Michael Scott from The Office watching his video.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's about 5 more views than we're used to getting on YouTube. So,
yeah, Brian is one of the premier Star Wars memorabilia and toy collectors in the country, and we had a chance to see his collection. It's very impressive. We highly recommend everybody go to YouTube and check it out. But tonight we're going to be discussing our thoughts on Season 2, The Mandalorian, now that it's over. Man, I can't believe it's over.
Wait, there was a Season 2?
No,
Mike.
we're just watching The Last Jedi 7 times to get the time counted.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
And Arnold is jumping in.
Oh.
But guys, I mean, Season 2, I mean, everyone had their expectations, but I mean, mine were blown out of the water.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing this show because with our individual Carbonite Chronicle episodes, of course, we broke down each episode, but now we get to take like that 30,000-foot view of the season and talk about it as like a whole story, which this season definitely was a complete story from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dive right in, guys. What do you think?
It was good. Oh, it's nice talk. See you guys later.
All right. See you, Mike. I don't think we should, take it chronologically or anything. Just things that stood out to us.
Oh yeah,
that we enjoyed. But I think I will start chronologically because that first episode, directed by Jon Favreau, was essentially another Star Wars movie.
Oh my God, the Marshal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing about Season 2 was I felt that, unlike Season 1, there wasn't a lot of filler. I felt that every episode was exciting and kind of moved the plot forward a little bit. In Season 1, there's a lot of character building. There are a couple episodes where I felt they just kind of got bogged down. It was still interesting, but I thought Season 2 from start to finish was just nonstop. And to Jared's point, kicking off with the Marshal and seeing, Tatooine, which is one of my favorite things to see in Star Wars. And anytime I get to go back to anywhere in Tatooine, I'm happy. See the Jedi moisture farmers. But
how that first episode played out as a movie, I felt like the whole season played out like a movie. I watched it all on Saturday. And just straight through. And if you threw out the credits between each episode and the recaps, it would play out just like a Star Wars movie, just a little bit longer. It'd be more like a Lord of the Rings movie in length. But, oh man, it was absolutely fantastic just watching it from beginning to end. And I caught there's a theme that I picked up on. This could be a story about armor. I mean,
how
all
so?
The different armors. You've got the Mandalorian's armor, right? And kind of Season 1, it kind of took its story, but In season 2, now you have Boba Fett's armor and the story behind that, and this could, it's just an interesting subplot. Just it could be a story about Mandalorian armor. You could put a new guy out there in a new suit and have a new armor, kind of thing going.
Well, maybe that's what I think the Book of Boba Fett. I think maybe we may get kind of a story of that armor as well, because obviously he lost it at some point, probably after he got out of the Sarlacc. And how did it get into the hands of Jawas? But we already seen a part of that journey actually played out in the first episode of The Mandalorian, because it made its way to Cobb Vanth.
Oh man, we could just speculate all day about that. I mean, was Bib Fortuna somehow involved in not rescuing Boba, or left him high and dry in the desert? I mean,
without too much of a side tangent here on that, I fully expect the Book of Boba Fett to give us maybe even some alternate angles from Return of the Jedi, like on the sail barge, like what during the battle, what happened, how did he, obviously we need to know how he got out of there.
Well, since we're talking about Boba Fett, and obviously the Marshal kicks off with, seeing Boba Fett's armor on somebody who's not Boba Fett, the whole season kind of has the specter of Boba Fett playing in and out until finally we get him. How do we feel about Boba Fett coming back officially? How do we feel that it was done? Do we think that they nailed it? It was terrible. We want to throw Star Wars in the trash now and never look at it again?
Personally, I was one of these people that was against the idea of Boba Fett ever coming back.
Okay.
He was dead to me. And this was fantastic. Absolutely amazing. They couldn't have done it any better. Just well thought out, well played out. And oh man, it blew my mind. I mean, we kind of all thought it was coming, but to see it executed the way that it was just spot on. You couldn't ask for any better.
I mean, seeing him return, seeing him in the first episode of the season, just that small glimpse was really cool. But I don't think I could have imagined them bringing him back in such a crazy, brutal way, where he looked like an unstoppable, crazed killing machine.
Well, I think this is where you have the advantage of people who like Star Wars making Star Wars as opposed to people who hate Star Wars making Star Wars.
Absolutely.
And Robert Rodriguez
100%.
is obviously a fan. He wasn't looking to subvert our expectations of what Boba Fett was. He gave people what they wanted to see. Because, we discussed this on the podcast, how I always thought Boba Fett was kind of overhyped because he never really did anything. He just was kind of like, he looked cool. People fell in love with him before they even saw him in the movie. And he didn't really do much. But you'd had years of fans like building him up in their minds of what he was capable of doing. And Robert Rodriguez was kind of handed that. They were like, okay, see what you can do with him. And he just kind of went nuts with it.
Yes, he swung for the fences and he hit a grand slam as far as I'm concerned.
It was really the legend of Boba Fett coming to life.
Yeah, because of course people, like Mike was saying, for decades in between these movies and the trilogies and everything, we're getting, first he was brought back in the comic books and then the novels. And then we were told, oh, well, Boba Fett's going to be in Attack of the Clones. Well, we didn't know really what that meant. We got Boba Fett, but he was a little kid. And I think in some ways that was a slight subversion of expectations, because people were seeing Jango Fett in the trailers and they're just like, oh, that's Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. But I think what they did in The Mandalorian, they took all this stuff, the stuff that people, like Mike had said, built up in their head, and they took Tamora Morrison from the prequels, and they made like this perfect version of that character that people always wanted to see. Because in the original trilogy, you can assign to Boba Fett really any attribute you want, because all he does is kind of walk around. And he shoots at a few people, and then he flies into the Sarlacc pit. So he's kind of a blank slate. But, I can't say enough about what Rodriguez did. And seeing his behind-the-scenes segment on the Disney Gallery show, where he got his kids to basically play out that scene with Star Wars toys in his backyard. I mean, what else do you need to know about? He's got his kids involved, blocking out a Boba Fett scene.
Using stormtrooper figures.
With Star Wars toys. It's amazing.
Which, by the way, that initial scene right before he gets his armor, where he is just wrecking stormtroopers with that oversized gaffy stick, is absolutely brutal. Brutal.
Yeah, it's probably the most violent Star Wars has been.
Oh, no doubt. And I said in our one of our Carbonite Chronicles, we were talking about it. He's dragging it behind him. It's almost like a horror movie as he's slowly dragging it and then destroys the guy's face. I mean, Tamora Morrison was amazing in that role. And
yeah, he looked like a crazy person.
Oh, I was going to say, it reminded me of Chirrut in Rogue One.
A little
swinging
bit.
that stick around, except it was much more brutal, much more violent. And
not quite as controlled, just more like brute force.
Yeah, a little more R-rated than PG-13.
Yeah. And he could see what he was doing.
Yes, that's true.
And, I got... one of my big hopes for this season was I was going to hear and see a Sonic Mine. And I got this message from Jared that morning before I had watched the episode. And he had kind of hinted, all my dreams are coming true. Again, props to Jon Favreau and Filoni for taking the best of Star Wars and, what fans love the most and putting it together and making something special that the fans love. And, I'm not saying it was easy to do, but, they really are on the pulse of Star Wars and they're on the pulse of fans. And there are people whom we've all talked to, Jared, you were mentioning it, that people who are not Star Wars fans or grew up being Star Wars fans are still watching the show and really enjoying it for what it is, just as a brand new show to them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not just about the fandom and the fan service. It's not just about, righting wrongs of what the sequels have done to Star Wars, but it's about making a great show. And it seems that these guys are just, spectacularly hitting out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, before we move off of Boba Fett, I'll just say, I never expected to have Slave One in a weekly television show.
Oh, man. That seismic charge going off.
Yeah, and seeing the interior of it as the gimbal, as the cockpit kind of, does like the toy did. It's like stuff you never thought you would see.
But we got to see a lot of really amazing, good Star Wars things. Like in the Marshal, the big specter that I never thought that I would see on the big screen.
The Krayt Dragon.
Shai Hulud. Oh wait, the Krayt Dragon.
Oh yeah, not the sandworms. No, not from Dune.
Which, by the way, the funny thing is that if you look at when that first episode was released, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was around the exact same time that Dune was scheduled to be released. But got pushed back.
They were beating Dune by the punch by a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they modeled it after that at all, but they certainly weren't going to take second place in that worm race.
Yeah.
But that was insane. That was insane. What a way to kick off a season with that episode.
Yeah, and it was the longest episode of The Mandalorian to date. It was like 55 minutes.
Yeah, it was long, but a good long.
Yeah. And,
That's what she said.
Oh, boy. And Jon Favreau, he finally got to make a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So he directed that. So
we got to see some fun things. We got to see Boba Fett's pack shoot the missile for the first time.
Yes.
In that episode.
Which apparently he doesn't have very good aim with.
No,
No.
not Boba.
It's an old model. He's
Yeah,
been carrying
you know.
that around for years.
Yeah, it's been half digested too. I mean, it's a miracle it works. And I really liked Oliphant's character of Cobb Vanth. I thought he was cool.
He has kind of a penchant for playing these kind of grizzled, Western kind of martial figures, doesn't he? He plays them well.
Yeah, I would
always
say
on the
so.
urge of, on the verge of a psychotic anger spasm, and
Well,
but no, he's a great choice.
I was kind of hoping he would show up again, but he did not in this season anyway.
Maybe season 3. We're seeing kind of like a good recycling of characters from season 1 and season 2. So
That's
that was
true.
something I noticed watching it over the weekend, was how many characters they brought back, and not counting like Grief Karga and Cara Dune, but like the X-wing pilots and the what's her name, all the smaller characters, like Amy Sedaris' character and
Bill Burr
off the top of my head.
Peli
Bill
was
Burr,
her-
Mayfeld, and
Which,
by the way, Mayfeld was, I think, I think that, I mean, it's hard for me to say which is my favorite episode, but that episode was spectacular. So much fun to watch. And Bill Burr is so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good in that role.
he had probably one of the best scenes of the season when he's talking to that officer about Operation Cinder.
To the Empire.
The scene is it's just kind of unnerving because you see on his face that he's about to lose his mind.
Yeah.
And the officer just keeps talking. You're like, oh man, something bad's going to happen here.
I saw a really funny meme the other day that was talking about that said, still a better stormtrooper arc than Finn in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I guess that's true.
I would agree with that.
Which, I mean, when you watch him from the start of that episode to the end, I mean, his transformation and his, you'll probably get maybe 10 minutes of screen time with the guy, but I mean, I really feel like I know Mayfeld now. And I mean, he's just a spectacular character, really well written, really fun.
Yeah. And that's why I think when you said at the beginning of the show, season 1 had filler. Well, I don't know about that because Mayfeld was in a filler episode in the first season.
I mean, I say that very lightly. I mean,
Sure.
Every episode in season 1 was great, but I mean, we even admitted in season 1 that we felt that the plot itself, kind of stalled out and was pushed forward later on in episodes. I never felt the plot was stalled out in any of these episodes. I thought it somehow or another was always moving him forward in the direction.
Yeah.
Well, I think, when we did our trailer analysis show, I think we talked about this before, but all the scenes in that trailer came from the first 4 episodes. They really held back the big stuff, which was definitely the right move.
Yeah, they didn't need to give us all that really good stuff because I mean, what they showed us was awesome as it was and super exciting. What else do you need to show?
Yeah, and I think we should talk about the debut of Ahsoka on the show, which, man, they didn't waste any time bringing her in. Her episode starts with just her right off the bat. And I thought that was really great. I think
it's a horror movie for those guys.
Yeah, it's always it's in like the forest and
The fog is coming and
she's got her white lightsabers. It was that was pretty amazing to see. And for people obviously who watched the Clone Wars for its entire run, that was I mean, I don't think I ever considered that we would see her in live action, at least until, they announced she was appearing in The Mandalorian. But that would have been a cool one to keep secret, I think.
Yeah.
Although probably impossible to do.
Yeah. I mean, it was too big. And to be fair, they didn't give a lot away about her.
Correct.
And,
you never saw pictures of her or anything.
And they didn't exploit her too much in season 2. I mean, she came in and she came out, and how they use her later, we'll see. But she wasn't. She's still kind of a mystery in this world and where she's going and what she's doing. So I mean, but what we found out was pretty amazing at the end. What her mission really is.
She's going to go after Thrawn.
Which, if you haven't seen Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, you have to watch it as a Star Wars fan. I mentioned this in the podcast before that I was somewhat skeptical when it started. I felt that Rebels was a little juvenile, a little simple on the animation, but I grew to love it. And Rebels, to me, I think is one of my favorite Star Wars shows. I mean, I think I like it more than the Clone Wars itself, although there are some amazing Clone Wars episodes, of course. But Rebels was great, and the plot lines that they brought in, cherry-picked from some of Legend's best, really let Ahsoka Tano mature and give her real meaning in this universe.
Yeah, absolutely. And this episode really pushed forward this is where we learned that Baby Yoda's name is Grogu, and we learned a lot about.
Did anyone find out why his name was Grogu?
I think it's some kind of anagram for George.
Probably
for Mr. Lucas, but I don't know. I don't think he's ever been specific about it. But that was a big episode for several reasons, because we saw Ahsoka and we got some Grogu backstory, and he himself was at the temple when 66 was executed.
So you think Anakin was swinging for little green guy, huh? You missed.
I don't know. I mean, he obviously escaped. So
I just PTSD all these years. Well, traumatized.
Yeah. Well,
all he's doing is eating things and killing organisms along the way.
Killing organisms.
Ahsoka mentioned that he went through some very dark stuff, so there's some things they have to explore. Sounds like it was a very uncomfortable period for young Grogu.
Seems like Grogu's trying to fill that void with lives over and over.
He wants to hurt like he hurts.
Yeah. So listen, lady, I'm going to eat these eggs of yours. You're going to stand here and watch me do it.
God, that was amazing. And he stood there looking at her almost like
man, as soon as he walked up to that thing, I was like, no way, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
Well,
but
that was interesting.
But Ahsoka, coming in and being that device to find out what's going on with Grogu, who he is, what's going on, what's he about, was important. I mean, how else are we going to find out about the inner workings of the green psychopath? But no, she was fantastic in it. Rosario Dawson killed it in that role. I mean, I thought she was great as Ahsoka.
Yeah,
I thought she was great, and she had the mannerisms down. She had the fighting stance down. I mean, she did her homework. She did a real good job.
Yeah, and some people have suggested that Ahsoka's journey to find Thrawn is going to lead to some kind of modern retelling of the Thrawn Trilogy, which was that group of books from the early 90s that kind of relaunched Star Wars. There's many elements from those books that you could kind of bring in to modern Star Wars. And, there's a lot of things in those books that are kind of no longer relevant. But Thrawn is in those books. Thrawn is in the unknown region somewhere. And apparently that's where he is now, or at least he's hiding somewhere. And he's a giant. He becomes a giant thorn in the New Republic's side. And you could recast Han, Luke, and Leia with some other characters, or even provide some digital cameos like happened this season. But I wouldn't put it past Favreau and Filoni to do something like that, just because. I'm sure Dave Filoni probably has the Thrawn trilogy memorized, and he obviously loves the character as he brought him into Rebels. And so, we'll see. Apparently, Lars Mikkelsen has been talking about playing him in live action, and he's the guy who did his voice.
I think
wow.
that would be the way to go. I mean, he even resembles him.
Yeah, and you could just, you could paint, dye his hair black and paint him blue, and he's already got the voice, so boom, you're there.
They've done a great job in the show bringing back familiar voices and casting them in live action.
Ah, well, with the exception of Ashley Eckstein, which
I think that's understandable.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
maybe
know that she has the physicality for that role.
She's very diminutive, but
I never ever, when they were talking about like bringing her on the show live action, like when the fans were talking about it, I never ever thought that she would be brought in to play that role. I just didn't see it happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we loved her in the cartoon.
No, she's great voiceover actress, and she seems like she's like a super sweet person.
But to bring in Katie Sackhoff, has a history of really good physical roles.
I think that was a no-brainer because
dynamite.
She looks like her animated counterpart, and I don't know.
To have cast somebody else would have been an insult.
Yeah, it would have been crazy. And there were people who were, grousing about her age because Katie is 40. She's 40 years old. And so they're saying Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars, they're putting her around 20 years old in the Clone Wars. So the Clone Wars is...
they're not that far off.
Yeah, the Clone Wars... Off. So she's probably about 6 or 7 years from where she should be, but in, a galaxy far, far away.
Who knows how people age?
And, I'm not saying Katie Sackhoff looks 47, but if somebody told me she was 47, I'd be like, oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think, it never really entered my mind.
It's a nitpicking thing. Who cares?
So, in anticipation of this podcast today, I put together a list of yeah, I know, of things that predictions that were made during the trailer preview. We were about 40% right as a group.
Do you have this as an Excel spreadsheet?
So, no, I just have some sticky notes.
Okay, well, this is good. I want to hear.
Brian he loves numbers.
Yeah,
crunch them. Let's crunch.
All right, so Corellia wasn't in it. That was one of the predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sabine Wren was not.
That was a massive fail.
Massive fail. We got a Hoth-like planet, but no Hoth.
Correct.
Endor. Charlie's prediction of Endor. Nope.
Yeah.
The story didn't really follow Luke. It's more like Luke followed the story.
Yeah,
it's true.
But we did get Luke. That was one of the predictions.
Yes.
Let's see. Those X-Wings were chasing the Razor Crest. And there was a prediction that they were following or just tagging
I thought
along.
They were escorting him.
Yes.
Escorting him in.
There was no Obi-Wan or like visage of Obi-Wan or anything like that. That was mentioned. We did get Boba Fett. We got Tatooine. We did not get the I think Matt had brought this up. Fan service of jumping planet to planet. The planets we've already been to a lot.
Yeah.
We didn't get that.
Except for Tatooine.
We did get the genesis or a hint of the genesis of the First Order.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, we did.
It was a more cohesive story. We did get Ahsoka. Tamira Morrison playing Rex.
Yeah, that was a fail.
Get that. We got the real deal. We got the Boba.
He might. Hey, listen, we might see a Rex in season 3.
We could.
Or the Ahsoka show.
Yeah, that would be.
It's the Ahsoka show.
We might see him in the Obi-Wan show. Who knows?
Yeah, Tamira Morrison may be working like 4 jobs on Star Wars.
Man, how does he go to like a convention then? What does he do?
He just has
meet Rex at this table, meet Boba Fett at this table. He's like running around behind.
He just runs behind the curtain, comes back.
He lays out all the pictures, and you choose one.
Yeah.
Wait, you sound like Boba Fett.
And I got a few more. There were lightsabers. We got 3 lightsabers.
Mm-hmm.
We did not get this was one of the things I wanted, was a lightsaber versus dark saber fight.
Okay, yeah.
And I think Mike had said something about an improved Ronto or something on Tatooine. We didn't get that. And then, let's see. We got closure with Boba Fett to a degree. I mean,
That's true.
His story's not over, but we got a lot of things dealt with around that. And then we didn't get the flashback by the pit, the Sarlacc pit.
Yes, that's true.
So we were 8 of 20 on those.
Well, you know what? I think a lot of our predictions have not been realized yet, but I have a feeling since we got, the vomit from Disney of all the Star Wars shows that are going to be produced, I think our predictions will touch in some of those shows at least.
Yes,
yeah.
I think
we have a
it's
good
likely.
shot of getting it in there somewhere.
I remember setting exactly where I'm sitting now when we were recording that trailer show, and Mike just said he said the Luke Skywalker thing, and man, that wasn't even something that was in the back of my head. And then by the end of the show, I was like, if we don't get that, I'm going to be angry.
Well, why don't we talk about Luke?
We have to.
And how he was brought back in that episode.
Okay, I'm speaking for myself. It is a top Star Wars moment, period, for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think, even though it just happened like 2 months ago, everything about it. I mean, look, we can nitpick the CGI on Luke and whatever, but that's not really important. The fact is, I felt like I was watching Luke Skywalker, and that's not something, a Luke Skywalker doing that stuff is something that I did not think I was ever going to see.
I mean, personally, I felt that was emotionally jolting.
I think it's fair to say we all felt deprived and cheated with our Luke Skywalker.
Yes, I think the sequels definitely did not fill that void of Luke. And I have to say, I was not surprised when the X-Wing pulled up, because I think they did a pretty good job kind of seeding that a Jedi is needs to be with Grogu, and obviously Ahsoka was not going to be that Jedi. Mm-hmm. So when I saw the X-Wing, you knew it was Luke, but there was something almost reserved where you're like, is it really Luke? Even though you knew it was. But the whole build-up that they did, the X-Wing coming in, the quick shots of the cameras seeing the X-Wing land, the cryptic way he made his way through the hallways and until finally he saw his glove and the green saber. Just spectacular. What a build. What a build it was.
Like I said, it's something that I almost couldn't believe I was watching it as it played out. Mm-hmm. As the season went on, I think we more and more, we expected something big. If Ahsoka was not going to be the Jedi, then it had to be someone significant. And I think by process of elimination, most of us just said, well, it's got to be Luke.
Right. I mean, this is the first time in the timeline that we see Luke Skywalker as a true Jedi.
Yeah.
This is the first time in his life timeline that's Luke Skywalker in the universe as a full Jedi.
Uh-huh.
And it was amazing. Now, look, obviously, what are we getting here? We're getting Filoni and Favreau are piggybacking on the amazing scene that we got in Rogue One of Vader destroying everybody in the hallway. So,
yes,
which was an amazing scene, which was also one of the scenes that we never thought we'd get to see, which makes Rogue One such an amazing movie. Vader was certainly done, very well in that movie, but this is the Luke, as Jared just said, that we never thought we were ever going to get to see. So thanks to the inspiration from Rogue One, we got to see Luke in all his Jedi glory.
Criticize the Disney Star Wars, fine. It deserves some criticism, but when they can do things like they did with Darth Vader and like they did with Luke in The Mandalorian, that's the stuff that's like priceless to people of our age. it's funny that, you know, kids growing up with this stuff right now, that Vader in the hallway and that Luke coming up in the elevator, that's going to be part of their Star Wars from now on. But for us, it's like, you know, we had to wait 30 years to see that kind of stuff. And us old fogies can appreciate this kind of stuff.
Well, you know, every movie that comes out now, they all have the special effects and all that stuff. And, you know, growing up, Star Wars was, and it still is, but was super special.
Yes.
With the special effects and the story and just everything about it was unique for its time. And I don't think kids understand that now.
No, because every weekend they're getting a new Marvel movie or some new whatever the young adult novel flavor of the month is. It's something that has something that has amazing special effects.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. That's a really good point. I mean, I guess back when Star Wars came out, sci-fi was kind of restricted to almost adult viewing in a sense when you saw the movies that came out, you know.
Well, of course we had Star Trek and Star Wars
but I mean, I'm saying like it wasn't a big, you know, pool to pull from for kids. And this is the first big sci-fi epic that kids got to really have access to.
And here's an idea of how good Star Wars is. About a year ago, I sat down and watched the movie Krull with some friends.
Love Krull.
That movie is hot garbage compared to Return of the Jedi, which would be its probably peer, you know, as far as time when it came out. And it looks terrible. It doesn't hold up. And it's, frankly, I loved it as a kid, but I think it's a bore fest now.
I haven't seen it in a long time. James Horner's recycled
his score, the soundtrack. You know, the soundtrack was probably the highlight, to be honest.
The Fire Steeds weren't doing it for you?
But but it looked horrible. And it had a bigger budget than Jedi. So, my goodness.
There certainly was kind of a timeless thing with those effects of the original films that has served them well over the years. Of course, there are some things that look a little dated in those old movies, even the special editions, but so much holds up brilliantly. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, you can't fault those shots of the Star Destroyer or the Millennium Falcon flying around. No. It's as good as anything that's coming out now.
Yeah. Well, I think in Star Wars, when they made Star Wars, one thing that they smartly did was they stayed true to their design DNA. And they didn't, you know, just because they got bigger budgets and they got more, you know, studio attention with Empire and Jedi, they still stayed within the DNA that they created within Star Wars. They, you know, their design book expanded, but was never, you know, you always felt that everything worked in Star Wars, that everything was in that universe. Nothing stood out as like hyper strange until George Lucas did Mos Eisley in 1998.
97, yes.
97, sorry. But, like, everything worked in Star Wars. And, you know, like I said, even in Jedi, when you're looking at the Ewoks still fit in, even though they were a little wonky. You know, everything worked. But you look at a movie, Krull. You look at Krull. Krull is an amalgamation of, like, every fantasy movie book you could grab.
I watched that a few years ago, and with Brian, it's just so contrived. I think that's my big problem with it. It's just every time they go somewhere, it feels like they're making up the name on the spot. You have to go to the mountain of Master Fairies people. There, go there. That's where you'll find your next thing you need.
Oh, hey, listen. Speaking of that, The Mandalorian was not immune to stuff like that this season. Many times we said The Mandalorian was kind of like the best looking video game ever created.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, okay, you finished this side mission with Cobb Vanth. Okay, you got the armor. Okay, now you go back to Mos Eisley. Oh, now you have another side mission. Take Frog Lady. So I guess
it the critical drinker called it side missions?
Yeah,
now it's
side
time for
missions.
another side mission.
Yeah.
Completely so. You're absolutely right.
So-
hey, listen, if there's a Mandalorian video game, I'd get back into gaming. So.
Oh yeah. Well, trust me. The merchandising juggernaut that is the Mandalorian, that's probably not going to be far behind. Speaking of video games, I'm coming back to that because I think there was at some point, I think it was the Ahsoka episode where it was like, it was very just sort of laid bare, like, okay, you need to go here and do this, and then this will happen. And that took me out of it a little bit, but again...
I wanted an episode where he had to spend an entire episode killing little rabbit-like creatures to build up his XP.
Is that...
He spends half an episode crafting armor.
He could have
Yeah.
done that in the second episode, with all those little spiders.
Spiders? Yes.
Yeah, that was
He just keeps killing them.
the
so
level
he
up
can
episode
level
right
up.
there.
Which again, by the way, we mentioned Rebels before. Rebels, the show was very, very good at incorporating true Star Wars DNA with a lot of Ralph McQuarrie art and concepts into the show. And the Mandalorians did a great job with it too. I mean, we got to those spiders alone were great. To see.
Those spiders are straight up like the ones in Rebels were inspired by McQuarrie. The ones in Mandalorian were McQuarrie.
Right.
They were just straight up Ralph McQuarrie designs.
Isn't that amazing?
I was gonna say that was probably my least favorite episode of the whole season. But upon watching it again in the marathon that I did Saturday, oh my goodness, that it flowed perfectly. It worked perfectly with that, and it was so much better the third time that I saw it. I don't know why it took me 3 times to come around, but
I'm gonna do a power marathon of season 2 probably next week. I'm gonna try and get through it again.
yeah, it's well worth it.
I've watched season 2 twice through now, and the second time around I think I enjoyed it more because it's that where you can settle in. You're not like first time you're watching it, you're like, all this stuff's happening, and you're like, whoa. But when you can sit down and just watch it a couple episodes at a time and just enjoy it, then it's much better that way.
We kind of mentioned it before that Disney and Star Wars has had some hits and more misses, but I've always felt that, or I always hoped, I should say, that Disney would be the right steward for the franchise, because who else can own this kind of property and make it work? They've got the resources, they've got the access to talent, and we see the sequels where I
was kind of hoping Golan Globus would make a resurgence and buy the rights to it.
Sid and Marty or Croft are
Sid and Marty
vying for it
Croft
as well. Yeah. But this really goes to show that even though Disney, like I said, has had some misses, when the right people are given the opportunity, they can make great stuff for Star Wars. And Favreau and Filoni are fans themselves. They're like us. They're from the same, generation, the same age group that we're in. And I really feel that right now they've got a handle on Star Wars, and they're not doing it just for fan service, but they're giving fans what they want, which is fantastic, and they're making a great show out of it too. So I'm very happy with these two taking this show and really making it the high bar standard for all these other shows that they're going to be releasing, because they all have to match this, in my opinion. Nobody can fall down. They all have to make some spectacular shows. And it looks like they're doing a good job doing some cycling through some directors and stuff, which I see were appearing in other shows. So hopefully this is going to be a good pollination spot for these other shows that they can watch and make some good programming for Star Wars and their fans. So I have hope. It's a new hope for Star Wars, where the sequels kind of let me down, where The Mandalorian has lifted me back up, and it just makes me excited for the other shows coming out.
Well, here's what I'll say. I think we've said this before, but with The Mandalorian, and there's a lot of stuff out there right now that the sequels are getting erased from existence and all this stuff. That is not happening. There's just no way they're doing that. If Mandalorian, well, first of all, I'll say, I kind of sense it with Matt and Mike that they've really soured on the sequels in the years since Force Awakens. I don't really share that except for The Last Jedi. I still enjoy Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. But I think if they can continue to have connective tissue, like lay the groundwork for what's coming in The Mandalorian, just like Clone Wars made the prequels better, I think Mandalorian can make the sequels better.
Well, they've already started doing that. Just think with, the Snoke clones or whatever they were in the episode.
Yeah, I
when
mean,
they took over that base and blew it up.
That's
the cloning facility or whatever that
yeah,
was.
they wanted Yoda's blood or Grogu's blood because of the Force sensitivity that it had. So, I mean, I don't think that needs to be the sole purpose of the show, but more connective tissue is a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, I just hope they explain what the smoke monster is.
That's the wrong show, Mike.
Oh.
We're not talking about that yet. The smoke monster. So does anybody have any final thoughts here as we wrap up season 2 of Mandalorian?
Well,
go around the table. Brian, favorite
right.
episode. Favorite episode.
Oh man, all of them. No. Really the last 3 together.
Okay, that's fair.
Those 3 just kind of set the whole thing off. I mean, I don't know. It's just there's just something about it. Boba Fett coming back and being in action, and you've got Luke. I mean, such an emotional moment too for all us fanboys. We're watching it when we were 8 and 9 years old, watching Jedi. That's probably the best moment. The whole season. They saved it for last, and they kept it under wraps, which is amazing. So, but there is a question. You got the Thrawn thing, and Ahsoka's going to be hunting for him. What about Ezra? That's a question I want answered.
I think
what about Ezra?
I think it has to be addressed at some point.
I think they have to be tied together.
So that's kind of my lingering question for the whole thing. But the whole season was fantastic. It was much more cohesive. It was just the first season was a great product, and this was a better product. They kind of, they got it all together. The technology is on point. They're using the best technology they've ever had to, that's ever been out there to use. And they're using it.
Yeah, it looked like they shot that Tatooine stuff in Africa.
Yeah.
And I know they didn't, but good grief.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it takes you right there.
Yeah. Mike, favorite episode?
Pass. No, wait, what? What's the question? They were all special to me. It's hard to judge your children. I like the crate dragon. I thought that looked amazing. I mean, I thought it looked like really, really amazing. I guess the last episode with Luke, I mean, it was such a great moment to see him as you wanted to see him.
And R2.
And I'm gonna add my wish list. Another character I'd like. There's 2 characters I'd like to see them bring back, even though one of them's technically dead. But I think they could just erase that book. Quinlan Voss, I think he's a great character who's been severely. We saw him in one episode of Clone Wars. I think he's a character that could be a really great on a show. And by gosh, let's have an on-screen resolution with Asajj Ventress.
Okay.
Because she ended up being one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars. And I think she had like a great arc. So I think she deserves that.
Okay. Matt, favorite episode?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think as far as the episodes go and the story and the visuals, I think the Marshall, the season opener, I think was the most impressive episode. But I listen, I mean, there are some top moments that you can't ignore. I mean, Boba Fett coming back in his armor for the very first time in the tragedy when he first drops the detonator and lands behind the stormtroopers and just wrecks them all. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite Star Wars moments of all time. The way they did that blew me away.
Yeah, where's that Boba Fett action figure with his robes and his armor?
Oh, dirty armor.
Yeah.
Don't have that one yet.
The Luke Skywalker coming back, CG, notwithstanding, was an unbelievable moment for me as a fan. It's just one of the most unbelievable things you can ever witness as a Star Wars fan. But I gotta tell you, I think, and I've watched this a million times over, if you can't tell by my background, Boba Fett taking the throne in Jabba's palace. I don't know why that made me so happy to see or how excited I was, but to me, it's those little things. I mean, that's what's so great about Boba Fett too, because Boba Fett, his whole thing is minimal stuff that makes you think. And to be given Boba Fett taking Bib Fortuna off the throne and taking it himself, man,
Yeah.
they're just toying with my emotions now.
With very little fanfare. He just walks up to him and shoots him.
Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't know. The Book of Boba is, I think I might be more anxious to watch that than I am the Obi-Wan show. So, I can't wait. These guys have me hooked, these jerks.
Well,
Filoni and Favreau.
You won't have to wait too long. It's this year.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Listen, if Star Wars lives on streaming television and is this quality, I'll watch it forever.
Sure.
This is spectacular stuff that as a fan, I can't believe I have access to, that I get to watch this stuff. So, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
Jared, what about you?
I think my favorite episode is the tragedy because of Boba's return. When you see Slave One coming down through that clear blue sky, you're just like, oh man, what is this? Oh, what a gift! What a gift! Slave One, Boba Fett in his armor again. It's something I never, ever thought I would see. Of course, honorable mention goes to Luke and R2, who just brought it home there at the end. I can't wait to see what happens with Season 3. You got to think, they're not done with Luke yet. And I'm not going to be mad if we follow Din Djarin around for a little bit, because he's a great character. That's something he's kind of in the background of everything we're talking about, but he's the star of the show. And if he doesn't work, then the show doesn't work. And I think Pedro Pascal did a great job with him this year, especially taking his helmet off at certain moments. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what's next.
And we got a couple unresolved things there, with that dark saber.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
How's that going to get ironed out?
Take it.
Yeah, just take it.
Yeah.
I yield.
I'm going to leave it laying here, and you just pick it up and make up your own story.
Yeah, here, I'm going to throw it on the floor, and you can take it if you want to. Or you can just leave it.
Just take it.
I think we're going to see, I think Din Djarin's going to be helping the Mandalorians retake Mandalore, I think. I think that's probably going to be...
Seems like a pretty good guess.
Because he's there with them on the ship. So, I don't know. We'll
Maybe
actually...
we'll see Sabine.
And Bo-Katan has a miniature Star Destroyer now, so...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll see Season 3 not too long after Book of Boba Fett, because they start shooting in March, Season 3.
Wow.
So
can't come soon enough. But
all
guys,
right.
I'd like to thank you all for recapping Season 2, talking about it. Boy, I can talk about Mandalorian every day. So, Brian, thank you for again coming on the program.
Hey,
it was always a pleasure
me.
to have you talk about Star Wars with us. We'll do that all day, all night.
Oh, yeah.
But Season 4 will be coming up shortly from the hyperspace. And we look forward to launching that. We'll keep you updated. But until then, go watch Season 2 if you haven't. Go watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah, this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us here next time as we take you into the 25th century.